Imagine this. You have this incredible idea, a really genuine desire to make a difference, to start a charity that helps people. You're passionate, driven, ready to go, but then bang, you hit the paperwork wall. The Canada Revenue Agency, all the legal jargon, just the sheer volume of information. It suddenly stands between your vision and, well, actually making it happen. It can feel like you're wading through quicksand, honestly. Well, today we're taking your stack of documents on the CRA's charity application checklist, and we're drawing heavily on insights from Dov Goldberg and the B.I.G. charity law group. Our mission for this deep dive: to cut through all that noise, we want to demystify this really critical roadmap, turn what could be a super frustrating rejection into hopefully a smooth, clear path to approval. Consider this your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. We'll give you the what, but also, importantly, the why behind it all. Because truly, understanding and properly following this checklist, it isn't just a suggestion. It can literally mean the difference between seeing your dream become a registered charity and facing a really disheartening delay or rejection.
So what's on the agenda? We're going to unpack the checklist itself, delve into the 4 key pillars CRA uses for review, highlight the major red flags you absolutely need to avoid. We'll share some pro tips for success. Finally, look at what happens once that rigorous review is complete, all designed to give you clarity and hopefully confidence. Let's unpack this.
Yeah. And what's truly fascinating here, and I think often misunderstood, is that this checklist isn't just like a helpful guide for applicants. It's the CRA's internal quality control tool. It's used specifically by their charities directorate staff. And this is critical because it ensures every single application gets a standardized, thorough examination that drastically reduces errors and ensures, fair treatment for everyone trying to get charitable status.
Okay, so it's basically their internal playbook.
Yeah.
The insight here for you, our listener, is that this isn't guesswork then. It's about aligning your submission perfectly with the lens they're looking through, almost like reverse engineering their assessment process.
Exactly. And that playbook, it's structured around 4 foundational elements that the CRA staff meticulously verify. They'll review your constitutional document, they assess your stated purpose and activities, evaluate the public benefit your organization provides, and analyze your governance structure. This whole approach is entirely about making sure you're compliant with the Income Tax Act.
That systematic review sounds like it really protects the integrity of the whole charity sector, doesn't it?
Precisely. It's vital for protecting the integrity of Canada's charity sector. It helps make sure that only qualified organizations get that significant tax-exempt status. And by providing clear steps, it can actually help speed up processing times for applications that are, well prepared and compliant. Ultimately, it safeguards public trust.
Right. And what's the typical journey look like, time-wise, once you submit an application?
Well, there are several stages. It starts with the initial receipt, of course. Then there's a primary review. If needed, it goes to a secondary review, and then finally a decision. For most straightforward cases, this whole process usually takes somewhere between 6 and 12 months.
Okay.
But as you might imagine, if an application is incomplete or particularly complex, it can definitely take longer.
6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a significant chunk of time.
Right.
It really reinforces why getting it right the first time is so crucial. Okay, let's really dig into the bedrock of this process, the 4 pillars of CRA's review. This is about building your charitable foundation correctly, piece by piece. Pillar 1 is all about those initial documentation requirements. It's truly the absolute foundation, right?
Absolutely. This is where meticulous precision is just paramount. You need to complete the current Form T-1789 application to register a charity under the Income Tax Act. And importantly, you have to submit it online through the CRA's My Business account or Represent a Client portal. Paper is generally out, but it's not just the form. You have to include all the mandatory supporting documents.
And what kind of documents are we talking about there? What's really crucial?
Okay, so you'll need certified copies of your core legal founding documents. Things like articles of incorporation if you're a corporation, or maybe a trust deed if you're setting up a trust. Along with that, your bylaws, your most recent financial statements if you have them, an organizational chart, and a detailed list of your directors and officers. Missing any one of these key pieces is a major red flag. It will immediately cause significant delays. The process literally stops cold until everything required is submitted.
Wow. So even just one missing document brings everything to a grinding halt? Okay. Beyond just having the documents, what's a subtle but critical detail applicants often mess up?
This is where it gets really interesting and honestly frustrating for applicants sometimes. Name consistency. Across all documents, any variation in spelling, punctuation, or formatting can cause processing delays.
Really? Like what kind of variations?
Think about it. Using the versus no, the at the start of the name. Abbreviations, maybe using an ampersand on one form and writing out "an" on another. Even mixing French and English names across documents if you have both. The CRA treats every single character in your name like a legal declaration. It's almost like a fundamental test of your meticulousness right from the start. They'll infer that attention to detail applies elsewhere, too.
That makes sense. It's not just about getting it right. It's signaling to the CRA from day one, hey, we're organized, we're precise. Okay, what about the physical address? Any pitfalls there?
Yeah, for address verification, the CRA needs a physical street address. That's where your main operations happen and where they can send official mail.
Yeah.
PO boxes are generally a no-go for the main physical address.
What if it's a home office?
Even if you operate from a home office, that residential address is perfectly fine as long as it's genuinely where you conduct operations. And your business number, your BN, you need to have that before you apply. And it absolutely must match across all your tax filings and correspondence. That's how they link your charity application to your existing CRA records. Oh, and finally, make sure your chosen fiscal year-end date is consistent everywhere. It affects all your annual reporting requirements down the line.
Okay, consistency, consistency, consistency. That really is the golden thread here. All right, moving on to pillar 2.
Yeah.
Governing documents. This is all about defining your legal structure, isn't it?
It is. You essentially have 3 main legal paths you can take. You can incorporate as a corporation, you can establish a trust, or you can operate as an unincorporated association. For a corporation, you'll need your articles of incorporation, your corporate bylaws, and crucially, a board resolution authorizing the application itself. This structure is very common, largely because it creates a separate legal entity that offers important legal protection, liability protection for your directors.
Yeah, that's a significant benefit, right? Separating personal liability from the organizations.
It really is. Now, for a trust structure, you'll need a properly executed trust deed, any trustee agreements, and really clear definitions of who the beneficiaries are. This option is often used for managing endowment funds, or maybe specific charitable bequests. Then there's the unincorporated association. For that, you'll typically have a constitution and bylaws, perhaps member agreements, and clear operating procedures. It's crucial to understand, though, that this structure often comes with potential personal liability for the members or directors, so you need to weigh that risk carefully.
Okay, so personal liability is a big differentiator there.
Right.
Are there any universal requirements for these governing documents, no matter which structure you choose?
Absolutely. 2 big ones. First, your governing documents must include proper dissolution clauses. This means if the organization ever winds down, its remaining assets must be transferred to what are called qualified dunnies, basically, other registered charities or certain public bodies. This ensures no private individual benefits when the charity dissolves.
Makes sense. No cashing out.
Exactly. Second, your objects clause, that's essentially your charity's specific mission statement, must use precise, accepted charitable language. You need to strictly avoid commercial terminology or language that's too vague or broad.
Right, clarity on the mission. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now for pillar 3, objects and activity scrutiny. This really feels like the heart of the charitable mission, doesn't it? What exactly is the CRA looking for here?
It truly is the core. The CRA checks if your stated objects, your purposes fall squarely within the 4 recognized categories of charity. Those are relief of poverty, advancement of education, advancement of religion, or that broader category of other purposes beneficial to the community.
And that last one covers quite a bit, right?
It does. Things like promoting health, protecting the environment, community development. But what's crucial here, and where people sometimes trip up, is that simply saying you're helping people is just way too vague for CRA standards. You need to be incredibly specific about how you're helping and who specifically benefits.
So good intentions aren't enough. You need clear, definable, charitable intentions. And what about demonstrating public benefit?
Yeah, you must show clear evidence that your work serves the public or a sufficient section of the public. And critically, there has to be no private benefit to individuals. This is fundamental. It prevents people from using charitable status for personal gain. And regarding political activities, they can't be your primary focus. Generally, these activities, like lobbying for specific law changes, cannot exceed 10% of your resources.
Okay, that's a pretty clear line the CRA draws. How do they actually assess the alignment between your proposed activities and your stated mission?
They want to see a clear, direct connection. Every single activity you propose should logically flow from your stated charitable objects. And ideally, you should have measurable outcomes where possible. And this raises a really important question for applicants today. Have you checked your website?
Good point.
Yeah. Your online content must align with your charitable application. You need to review your mission statements online, your program descriptions, even your fundraising appeals. Any problematic content may be outdated political references. Language that sounds too much like a for-profit business needs to be updated or removed. The CRA will look at your public-facing materials.
That's a fantastic practical tip. Your public image is effectively part of your application package. What about charities doing work internationally?
If you're planning international work, there still needs to be a clear connection to Canada. Generally, at least 50% of your activities, or perhaps resources, should have a clear Canadian benefit or connection. Even for work happening abroad, you must demonstrate direct control over foreign activities. This means having detailed agreements with partners overseas, robust tracking mechanisms. You can't just send funds without clear oversight. That's a huge red flag, especially considering anti-terrorism financing legislation.
Right, that makes sense. Oversight is key. And fundraising, how do they look at that?
They scrutinize third-party fundraiser arrangements quite carefully, particularly regarding excessive compensation or situations where the fundraiser seems to control the funds too much. While there isn't a hard and fast legal rule, compensation exceeding, say, 35% of the funds raised would likely require a very strong justification. They want to see most of the money going to the actual charitable work.
Okay, so clarity on purpose, a strong connection to Canada, even if working internationally, and really careful management of funds and fundraising are all paramount. That brings us nicely to Pillar 4. Financial and governance oversight, ensuring responsible stewardship. This is all about showing you're financially stable and accountable, right?
Absolutely. You'll need comprehensive financial documentation. If you're an existing entity applying, that usually means audited financial statements for the past 2 years. You'll also need detailed budget projections for the upcoming fiscal year and a clear separation of your different income types, donations, grants, maybe program revenue. The CRA is looking for solid evidence of sound financial controls.
And that budget needs to clearly show that the charitable mission is the top priority in spending, doesn't it?
Precisely. Charitable program expenses should represent the largest portion of your spending. As a general guideline, administrative costs typically shouldn't exceed around 20% of your total expenses. The CRA often flags applications where admin costs seem disproportionately high. They might ask for proof that donations truly reach the people you claim to help, not just covering overhead. Then there's the director information completeness. This means providing full legal names, current residential addresses, and sometimes even social insurance numbers for all your directors. They need to know who is governing the organization.
Okay. And this leads right into the integrity of the board itself, doesn't it? That concept of arm's length relationships. Tell us about that.
Yes. This is fundamentally about preventing conflicts of interest, both real and perceived. Non-arm's length relationships include close family members, business partners, or basically anyone who might have a personal or financial stake in the charity's decisions that goes beyond its pure mission. The rule is clear. The majority of directors must be at arm's length from each other. This is really a cornerstone of maintaining public trust and demonstrating genuine charitable intent, not just benefiting a small group.
Makes sense.
And again, consistency is key. Any business numbers referenced in the director information must match CRA records exactly. No discrepancies.
So independence and transparency on the board are absolutely paramount.
Absolutely. Your board structure must include independent directors with no conflicts of interest. Family members cannot dominate or control board decisions. Having clear written policies for handling conflicts of interest, for document retention, and demonstrating that you hold regular, properly documented board meetings, all these are crucial to show active and responsible governance is actually happening.
That's a lot of detail, but it definitely paints a clear picture of the kind of integrity the CRA expects. Okay, now for the part that can save you a lot of heartache. Understanding the red flags that could derail your application. Knowing these pitfalls beforehand can really help accelerate approval.
Yeah, definitely. The most common pitfalls often revolve around incomplete or inconsistent documentation. We're talking missing forms, names, or addresses that conflict across different documents, activity descriptions that are too vague, or, unsigned papers. Any one of these things is an immediate red flag. It just suggests a lack of organizational rigor right off the bat.
So even a seemingly tiny typo or a date mismatch can cause significant issues because it hints at potentially bigger organizational problems.
Exactly. Another major red flag is having non-charitable objects or activities. Trying to mix purposes like engaging in political lobbying beyond the permitted advocacy limits, or setting up business ventures that are primarily for profit that's a non-starter. Using vague language in your objects clause, like may engage in activities or including but not limited to, can also lead to rejection. Your purpose must be exclusively and clearly charitable.
Right. Focus is key.
And for organizations involved in international activities, the CRA scrutinizes these very heavily. You absolutely must demonstrate direct control and supervision over those foreign activities. Detailed agreements, clear tracking of funds and outcomes are essential. Without this, especially with anti-terrorism financing laws, it's almost certainly going to be rejected.
That's a critical point for any charity thinking of expanding globally. Really need that structure in place.
It is. Then there's inadequate governance structures. Having fewer than 3 directors who are at arm's length from each other, allowing family members to control board decisions, or lacking basic policies like a conflict of interest policy, or even just not holding regular board meetings. These are all major red flags signaling potential mismanagement or lack of oversight.
Okay.
And finally, financial irregularities or unclear fund usage. Things like excessive administrative costs relative to program spending, payments being made to related parties without clear justification, or really anything that suggests private benefit rather than public good, that will lead to rejection. The CRA needs to clearly see that donations are being used responsibly for the stated charitable purpose.
That's a really powerful list of things to absolutely avoid.
Right.
Understanding these definitely helps you preempt problems. So flipping that, what are some pro tips for application success to help ensure a smoother path to registration?
Okay, my absolute top tip. Conduct a thorough self-audit using these very checklist criteria before you even think about submitting. Treat it like you're the CRA reviewer. Go through your governing documents, check that dissolution clause, review your activity alignment, your board structure, your financials. Look for inconsistencies with a fine-tooth comb. This proactive approach can prevent so many costly delays and frustrating rejection letters.
So essentially, beat the CRA to the punch. Find and fix any mistakes yourself first.
Exactly. And just to hammer this home again, ensure absolute consistency across all your documents. Identical wording for your charitable purposes, your activity descriptions, your financial projections, all key terms, everywhere. Any contradiction will raise a question, guaranteed. And summarizing those common mistakes to avoid. Don't mix charitable and non-charitable purposes. Avoid vague descriptions of activities. Never submit incomplete financials. Don't ignore the public benefit requirement. And please, don't rush the application process. Take the time to get it right.
Those are excellent, almost common sense rules when you lay them out like that.
Wow.
Okay, and when is it really time to bite the bullet and bring in professional help, like maybe legal counsel specializing in charity law?
You should strongly consider engaging legal counsel if you have a complex structure, like maybe multiple related entities, or if you have novel programs that don't easily fit into the standard CRA categories. Definitely if you've had previous rejections, if you have significant assets or maybe complex funding arrangements, or for sure if you're involved in any international activities. A good legal review, yes, it's an upfront cost, but it almost always costs less than repeated rejections and delays, and the sheer frustration and lost time that comes with them.
That's a very practical perspective. The cost of getting it wrong can be much higher. Okay, so you've put in all this incredible hard work. You've been super thorough. What happens after the CRA checklist review is finally complete?
Well, the best case scenario. If your application meets all the criteria and is deemed registrable, you'll receive your official charity registration letter. It'll have your unique registration number and the effective date of registration. That's the exciting moment. Important next steps then include updating your governing documents if needed to reflect your registered status, and of course, you can start issuing official donation receipts to your generous donors.
That's the goal. And if, unfortunately, it's not registrable, what are the options then?
Yeah. Common rejection reasons usually fall into purpose-related issues. Maybe the objects weren't considered charitable or documentation problems. If you are rejected, you typically have a 60-day window to file a formal notice of objection with the CRA's appeals branch. Or, often more practically, you can revise your application, specifically address the issues they raised, and then resubmit it. Don't necessarily give up after the first try.
Good to know there are avenues. So getting that registration is a huge milestone, a big win. But the journey doesn't actually end there, does it? There are some crucial ongoing compliance obligations.
Absolutely not. Registration is just the beginning of your relationship with the CRA, in a way. You must file the crucial annual information return, that's Form T3D10, within 6 months of your fiscal year end, every single year. This form reports all your financial details, your activities for the year, and includes Form T12-2 through 5, which lists your current directors. Beyond the T3010, you're also obligated to continually operate in line with your registered charitable purposes, keep proper books and records, issue donation receipts correctly, meet minimum spending requirements on your charitable activities, the disbursement quota, and report any significant changes in your governance or operations to the CRA. This entire ongoing compliance process, it really protects the sector's reputation and helps build and maintain public trust in charities.
It's clear that registration is definitely a responsibility, not just a one-time privilege. Okay, thinking about the bigger picture now, why does all this meticulous detail matter to you, the listener? Beyond just getting the application approved, what's the broader impact here?
Well, fundamentally, I think it comes down to public trust. Meeting these stringent requirements isn't just about jumping through bureaucratic hoops. It's about maintaining the integrity of the entire charitable sector. It builds accountability with the public and assures donors and the government that resources are being used appropriately and effectively for the public good. Second, let's be frank, there are significant tax benefits. We're talking income tax exemption for the charity itself, often relief from GST/HST on purchases, and that absolutely crucial ability to issue official donation receipts to donors. Those federal tax credits for donors, currently 15% on the first $200 donated and 29% on amounts above that for individuals, are a major motivator for charitable giving in Canada.
Yeah, that's a huge factor for donors, for sure.
Yeah.
It directly boosts fundraising capabilities.
Exactly. Which leads right into increased donor confidence. Being a registered charity provides that third-party validation from the CRA. It enhances your legitimacy and credibility significantly. That opens doors to grants from foundations, corporate sponsorships, and makes it much easier to use online giving platforms, most of which require registered status. And this raises one last important question looking forward. How do you stay current? CRA requirements, interpretations, and policies change over time. It's not static. So monitoring CRA publications, maybe attending workshops or webinars, and staying engaged with professional developments in the sector is really key to adapting and maintaining your good standing long term.
That's a fantastic point. It really is an ongoing commitment to stay informed and compliant. Wow, what an incredible deep dive we've had today. We've really gone from demystifying that CRA charity application checklist, understanding its core purpose as an internal quality control tool for the CRA, to breaking down those 4 foundational pillars of review: documentation, governing documents, objects and activities, and financial governance oversight. We've highlighted those crucial red flags, the inconsistencies, the non-charitable purposes, the governance issues that could derail your application, and armed you with some practical pro tips for success, from doing that diligent self-audit before submitting, to ensuring consistency, to knowing when professional counsel might be a really wise investment. And finally, we looked at what happens post-review, both the good news of registration and the options if you face rejection, and emphasize those vital ongoing compliance obligations, like the annual T3010 return. The CRA charity application checklist, while it can seem complex and maybe even daunting at first glance, is ultimately a framework. It's designed to ensure that every organization calling itself a charity is truly equipped, structured, and governed to deliver on its promise to the public with real integrity and accountability. And maybe here's a final thought to mull over. How might applying this same rigor, this focus on clarity, consistency, and thorough planning, how might applying that to any major project in your life, charitable or otherwise, significantly boost its chances of success? It's not just about ticking boxes for compliance. It's really about robust planning and integrity right from the very beginning. That's all for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us and trusting us to provide you with a shortcut to being well informed. Until next time, keep digging deeper.